Hi guys, this is chapter 14 of Pasquala. It's called Watite, the Ground Owl. One morning before dawn, I was startled by my mother's call. She could not move from her tule mat. During the days that followed, I was filled with worry. I did the chores for both of us and brought food and water to my mother. Each day she slept more and more. Her breathing became heavy and she grew weaker and weaker. Every evening I sat next to my mother and held her hand, just as she had held my hand when I was so sick at Mission Santa Ynez. One evening, as mother lay on her tule mat with her eyes closed, I rubbed her hands gently. She opened her eyes, looked at me, and smiled. After a while, her breathing became very quiet, and I knew by the stillness of her body that my mother's spirit was taking the journey to Tepiknitz Pond, the land of the hereafter. Sadness clouded my days. In mourning for my mother, I clamped my long black hair between the parts of a split stick and singed off my hair with a piece of burning bark. I wrapped the hair I had singed off around a large rock. I threw the rock into a deep hole in the river so the hair couldn't be blown by the wind into the hands of the bad spirits. Now the bad spirits could do me no harm. As I sat at the edge of the river thinking about my mother, the sound of the breeze swishing through the willow branches filled my mind with memories. I remembered that once a year my tribe and many other neighboring tribes had traveled up the river channel to an ancient campground where a great mourning ceremony was held. I remembered that during the first 2 or 3 days, while we waited for the other people to arrive, we gathered willow branches and made willow brooms to swish away the loose dirt and smooth a large area of the campground. The swept space would be used for a dance floor. To one side of the dance floor there was a circular pit where the sacred fire would burn until the ceremony ended. During these first few days of preparation, speeches and stories were told every night. One of my favorite stories was about two brothers who shook the tules and made thunder. I like to hear the storyteller tell the legend of Pumuk, the brother who was mean and smashed things and made big thunder. The other brother, Poton, made little thunder. The storyteller would use a loud voice when he spoke of Pumuk. When he talked about Poton, he used a small, soft voice. The legend of the Thunder Twins. In times long ago, there was a baby who was orphaned with no one to take care of him. A she-dog found the baby and took him to her home. She took care of the baby and named him Thunder. He grew rapidly. Soon the child learned to use a bow and arrow. One day Thunder told his mother that he was lonely and wanted a companion. He told his mother to get a piece of black charcoal and mark him down the middle from head to toe, and then throw him into the river. Thunder's mother was upset, but the boy insisted. So his mother did what Thunder asked. She marked the boy and threw him into the river. At the end of the 2 days, she heard shouting at dawn and saw two boys coming up out of the water. They called to their mother to build a fire, for they were cold. She did so, and soon the boys were warm and dry. The boy's mother named the bigger boy Big Thunder and called him Pumuk. She named the smaller boy Little Thunder and called him Poton. The Thunder Twins stayed with their mother for some time and went hunting for her every day. At last they told their mother that they were tired of staying on earth and wanted to go to the sky. She agreed with the boys. The boys told her not to be frightened when she heard them playing in the sky. They told their mother that they would be very rough and noisy at times, and they might even get mad at each other. They told her if their noise frightened her, that she should howl. When she howled, the Thunder Twins would hear her and realize that they had scared her. They would stop their noise. From that time on, when thunder roars in the sky, everyone knows that the Thunder Twins are playing. The loudest thunder is made by Pumuk, boom, boom, boom. The softer thunder is made by Poton, ta 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 ta, boom. When the noise gets too loud, the mother of the Thunder Twins howls and the boys stop their noise. When all the mourners had arrived at the campground, the mourning ceremony began. Nobody talked, everything was quiet. When we could just see the evening star, the chief stood in front of the fire and in a loud voice announced that the mourning ceremony would begin. For the next 6 days the people danced, sang, and cried to mourn the dead. Each evening the sacred fire blazed as the dancing continued throughout the night. The dancers held offerings of baskets, bows and arrows, and shell necklaces high above their heads as they danced. While the mourners danced, hundreds and hundreds of small beads were thrown in the air by the women. I watched the dancers' quick moving feet as little by little they pounded the beads into the smooth ground. Soon the rhythm of the music called me into the circle of dancers, and for a time I danced and became part of the ceremony. In the dark of the evening I remember how the figures of the dancers were black shadows against the orange flames of the fire. On the sixth night the offerings were burned in the sacred fire, and the dancing and singing stopped. Everyone waited and listened for the call of Watite, the ground owl. Before long the wailing screech of Watite came floating over the night breezes. The screech told us Watite was calling to the Great Spirit, to Picnitz, asking that the spirits of the dead be admitted to Picnitz Pond. As everyone listened to the sad sound of the owl, the people knew the mourning ceremony was ending. The chief was told all the people who mourned. The chief then told all the people who mourned that they could let their hair grow and eat meat once again. The next morning, their sadness gone, and the mourners ran toward the rising sun. Laughing and splashing in the river, they were now free to wash the pitch and charcoal from their faces. A great feast of acorn bread, antelope, elk, jackrabbit, and squirrel ended the morning ceremony. All the people returned to their own villages until the village chief set the time for another morning ceremony. I knew that this year, when all the tribes traveled to the ancient campground, my uncle would not allow me to go with them and dance at the morning ceremony. Perhaps next year my uncle would change his mind and I would be allowed to go to the morning ceremony and dance for my mother.